Oh, did I say Path of Exile when I meant to say Pillars of Eternity? I do apologize. I meant the other CRPG built on this same engine made by Obsidian. I constantly translate PoE into Path of Exile almost automatically. But if I did do that, it was just that I misspoke. Disco Elysium is really the only other contender for best CRPG of the 2000s. You know what? I'm really tempted to do a playthrough on Disco Elysium. Really tempted. Okay. Well, so you worked on the Chronicle together. We are but two members of the team spanning generations, but yes, we both contributed to the Chronicles. Long bouts of field work and longer stretches of authoring our findings suited our temperament. My colleagues insisted original research was the way to make a name for myself, but the accounting of everything is a cause greater than us all. Zarkwan, thank you very much for the subscription, mate. 32 months. Thanks for all of the fun and relaxing content. The most dapper channel I know. Well, that is incredibly, incredibly kind of you to say so. Thank you. Do it. I guess that's a do it to playing through Disco Elysium. Nuria, hello. How are you doing? Home alone tonight and was hoping for an Aavak stream. Well, I'm glad that I've been able to satisfy that hope. Okay. Lexamy saw the Chronicle as half a record of things that were, and half a record of how things ought to be. To her, each moment was recorded, or rather we recorded, offers universal insight into how people will act in the future. I take the more modest stance that you can't stand in the same river twice, and the same general can't fight the same war twice, so history is of a limited predictive power. Forgive me, you didn't ask for the nuances of our philosophical debates. What would you like to know? What do you make of her condition? From the sound of it, she was afflicted with sleeplessness. By all accounts, madness would naturally follow, but if she's down in the old walls and enfeebled, she'd be easy prey for the bane. Have you heard of anything like this before? Well, there are all manner of magics that kill a person slowly. Where to begin? I'm more perplexed that she, and by the sound of it, others too, were first healed and then grew ill. Okay. What do you make of these chronicle fragments she tasked us to find? My heart sings every time I can safeguard a text against destruction. Still, there is something bothering me about these writings. Let's look around a bit more, shall we? Ask me again when I have a few pieces to compare. Okay, fair enough. The ones who got away. Speak with Tycaster Wagstaff. Speak with Jaspos, Master of Napping. What a fantastic title you have there. Wait, that is a transition. Let's have a chat. Fatebinder, gracious. Did you come for... You'll want to speak with Master Jaspos. He's northeast of here.
Well, they
in the forge.
Water, a little sunlight. A shame the neighbors are floating abominations.
You know, you can't have everything, I suppose. Looks like there was some quieter men came in here and settled down by the seams of it. Interesting. Yeah, we're going to start...
Cut the banter and stay low.
Stealthing a little bit here and there, just to see if anything shows up.
Have a look here.
My gamer sense were tingling. See all this water? Maybe not wise to upset the Tidecaster. Master Jaspos protects the wound, and we protect Master Jaspos.
Can't do that.
It looks like Wagstaff is over in this direction. See all this water? Maybe not wise to upset the Tidecaster. Okay, they're all pretty much the same people.
You want me to be subtle?
Poke around a little bit. Got some more horde. Enough war up top, you have to drag it down here. Well, that's not exactly what I did. Oh, it's a Stonestalker Beastman. Woundkin scents blood on human. Old blood. And new. Woundkin? Interesting. Rostrum Lennox, a weary-looking man, observes you through dark, sunken eyes, nodding faintly as you approach. Fatebinder, greetings to you. Though unkempt and draped in dishevelled rags, he bows deeply in the style of Northern Tearsman nobility. You observe that his right arm is emaciated and frail, seemingly rooted in place. Rostrum Lennox, son of the late Rostrum Volus, I saw you in the Bastard City shortly after Tunon's arrival. We've come a long way from then, haven't we? He chuckles mirthlessly at the memory. You'll want to speak to Wagstaff or Jaspos before you get too settled in. The former's down by the falls, the latter's up in the forge to the north of the hall. Okay, well, thank you very much.
Sorry, I can't.
Fatebinder, fantastic. You should probably speak to Wagstaff in the chamber overlooking the south. Okay. Well, let's head on down then.
The really vain Tidecasters always have nice reflecting pools. Mine was bigger.
Oh, ebb. Wonderful, marvellous ebb. Arranged at angles that recall the sigil of grave light, these crystals shimmer with the collected glow of what little radiance from Territrus' grave filters into these depths. Territrus' grave is the moon, by the way. Please speak to Master Jaspers at the forge before pronouncing any verdict. A bearded, wreathed figure stands by the pool's edge, eyes closed in concentration. His face, uncharitably wreathed from years of sun and wind. Weathered. Is a collection of deep intertwining creases, wreathed by a brittle-looking grey mane. One disapproving eye snaps open upon your approach. Of all the shriveled barnacles to find, you? By Kyros swollen tit, you? What of Camberil? Hagrivar, don't tell me you're all that's left. I'm totally going to just watch this. Step back and let them talk. They fought the good fight, but fell to Cain at the well. What's your excuse? How do you slither your way here? They're dead. So the militants have fallen and you're all that's left? Fuck us all, Kyros really has won. I didn't slither. It was more of a surreptitious crawl. Speaking of lowly vermin, what are you doing with this lowlife? Wow. I'm kind of tempted to step in, but... I think I'm going to get more information by letting them talk. This one, he's with Kyros. It's sort of a long story. More importantly, what are you doing here? Not sure if my emphasis is on you or here. You think you and those salty old queens you adored were the only casters unwilling to flee? You fools were just dumb enough to wave your arms until the Archons noticed you. Some of us, well, okay, one of us, still knows the ancient art of subtlety. Ah, yes. And what's more subtle than, what is it you're doing here? Restarting civilization in the old walls? Did you travel the tiers looking for folks who wanted to commit suicide by Bane but needed a group setting for that extra push to get it done? Hardly. I came here to be left alone, but I'm just so damn charming and attractive, society. I'm starting to like this guy. Found me, and I didn't kick it out of bed. Don't belittle what we're doing down here. I don't visit you in your brothel, slap the dick out of your mouth and tell you how to be you. Wow. I don't know what I was expecting of the match between Ebb and Wagstaff, but wow, that escalated. Ah. Enough. Ebb, you can gossip with your friends some other time. Turning her head slowly, Ebb looks at you with a scowl. I assume someone pointed you towards me to speak for the settlement. If there are matters to discuss, then so be it. I may not like it, but I do lead these people. Frankly, only because nobody else can. That stone-straddling fool, Jaspos, will talk himself into believing he's up to the task, but don't believe his bluster for a moment. Anyway, I'll just ask the question everyone's wondering. What are your intentions with us? Stretches interpretation of Kyros law to justify its existence. The wound must provide material support for the god. From your tone, safe to say, you are knowingly in violation of Kyros law, not that ignorance of the law is a worthy excuse. I haven't decided yet. I have questions to you first. This is pretty much where I am. Very well. What does a fate binder want with this old tidecaster? Yeah, you gotta love this game. What do you do here as one of the leaders? He shakes his head. I'm the only true leader, as I've said before, but I won't belabor the point. He clears his throat. 3 years ago, I stumbled across these old walls, and very quickly I found I wasn't alone. A clutch of hungry and sick tearsmen had stumbled upon this enclave as well. I had come here to escape Kyros' forces, but I'm nothing if not driven by noblesse oblige. I decided I'd weigh anchor for a bit and help out. His staff dips into the pool at his feet, sending ripples across the surface. Water was both the problem and the solution. These refugees were surrounded by it, but couldn't drink it without picking up whatever old walls-induced diseases lived within it. Withering rot, we call it. To a tidecaster, these are trivial matters. So long as I'm here, making a solution to purify the water is a simple matter. Makes life here possible. It's a difficult burden, but I'm honoured by my talents are put to good use. What else do you want of me? Tell me about the tidecasters. She didn't wax nostalgically already. With a nudge of his staff, the old man glares at Ebb. Apparently my information is out of date. I sure thought I was the last of our school, but apparently I hadn't looked under the rock you've been calling home. We're students of occulted jade, Archon of Tides. She was one of the founding pioneers of the Tears, and her school has been the longest-running institution of learning in the peninsula. Don't listen to what the sages say. Why didn't you leave with the others? I was one of the few to stay, and why not? This is my home. I don't care about Kyros or the slaughter sport of these Archons, but I also wasn't about to sail west to die of starvation on the high seas. The promised lands are a lie. The ocean goes onwards, or maybe you fall off the edge, or wrap around to the east coast of Taratus and land right in Kyros' lap. If I'm to die, let it happen in my father's coast and my mother's land. What have you been doing since the school's departure? I spent a few span dealing with some unfinished business. A half-dozen sages had wronged some friends of mine, and I'll admit, vengeance occupied me for a time. When Kyros' forces came, I decided to stay far from the beaten path. I set out to the mountains to find privacy. This place was serendipity writ large. When others stumbled upon the place, it somehow shifted from hovel to home. I did not expect or ask for the responsibility of caring for these people, but now that I wear it, the mantle is comforting. What did you do in the school before the war? What was your title exactly? I don't think we ever had a ceremonial officer for the instructor most dedicated to diddling the students. Wow. Oh, come off it. You enjoyed that privilege as much as I did. Besides, they listen more closely if you make them feel special. What? Apparently, there's things we don't know about Ebb. Well, actually, I suppose that's fair to say. We knew there were things we didn't know about Ebb. Dear Lord, though. Mind you, Ebb has always kind of come across as a bit more world-wise. What happens at Oxford stays at Oxford. It appears so, is there? Provost of Antiquities was the official title. My life's work was the curation of the school's past, the relics, the sermons of the culted jade, the life stories of Tidecaster elders past, that sort of work. A fellow historian. I didn't realize the Tidecasters gave a care to the historical record. I wonder how your notes would compare to the Chronicle of the Sages. I'm sure I could fill in countless gaps in your accounting. The Tidecaster glares at Lantry with contempt. A quiet hiss escapes Ebb as she turns to Lantry. A sour expression splashes across her face. Ah, yes. Let the historical records note that Lantry takes the hint. Coughing nervously, the sage takes several steps back and falls silent. I like Lantry. I like all the characters, honestly. They've all got qualities that I appreciate. My personal interest was always being the fluid magics of our school. Most of the school embraces the mighty power of Gravelight. I almost can't blame them. For me, water, mist, ice, and the fog have always been more immediate, more real, more worthy of understanding. Why didn't the Tidecasters stay and fight Kyros? If I may be so bold as to answer your question with a question, why do you think it was? Not many folks seem to know the truth, so I'm curious what one of Kyros' soldiers believes happened. Okay, well, that's fair. Quixian, thank you very much for the Prime sub. Diolch yn fawr iawn. Really appreciate it, mate. Rational self-interest. The Tidecasters knew Kyros was coming years beforehand and rightly feared death. They knew something we don't. Perhaps the cartographers were wrong, and maybe there's land to the west. I assume they didn't want to die and felt their chances were better on the open sea, given the school's skill set. Only a handful of the Tidecasters stayed to fight. I can only assume cowardice was a school virtue. No, I'm going to go with option 4. You aren't far off from the truth. At least, for many of the Tidecasters, the high seas are truly home. For many, the danger of the seas was less a worry than a war with Kyros. The truth is, our Archon lacked the will to resist. Scores of Tidecasters craved war, but lost heart at the notion of facing the enemy without occulted jade leading the charge. Enough. I don't wish to revel in the cowardice of the Tidecasters. I made my decision to stay. I'm not pretending I'm some brave hero, but at least I'm trying to hold on to some little port in the storm. Okay, let me ask something else then. Hey, oh, Melody in Time. How do you purify the water? It's impossible to convey the intricacies, but suffice it to say that I must infuse water with Gravelight energy. This, combined with the trace amount of alcohol and beastman blood, counteracts the mortifying effects of the old wall's water. I see that look in your eye. Don't worry, the beastmen willingly gift these vital fluids when they can. It's a tiring process, but it produces clean and restorative water. Jaspos' product is an amateur's imitation and will never sustain this place in the long run. That's why I've taken on insipid Monarchia as my apprentice, to safeguard this process, and unlike most, she knows just when to stay out of my way. What should I know about Jaspos? His eyes glaze over at the mention of his rival's name. Ugh. If only that rock pounder would just shut up. He loves the sound of his own voice. He grips the roping on his waist, squeezing it with a clenched fist. Unfortunately, his forge is on the upper level, so his soliloquies flow down here to ensure my misery. This place was better acoustics than the Academy of Tides. Lucky me. He thinks because he can cleanse the water, not as well as I do, mind you, that he can pontificate at all hours of the day. I nearly drowned myself once rather than listen to one more of his tirades. But I knew the moment my body was discovered, he'd be raining another righteous speech about cowardice down upon my corpse. That wouldn't do. Look, I'll say it plain. Jaspos has a big mouth and he talks incessantly about transforming Bass's wound into something great. But the truth is that he's just out for himself. He slams his staff into the ground, mouth quivering as he speaks. I built this place from nothing, and he thinks he can come in and claim it when the hard work has already been done? Not on my watch. I heard a beast woman once held sway here. He cocks an eyebrow. Ah, Reef Talon. Curious case, that one. She poured her way into these caves a year ago with her cubs. A vicious fighter for certain. Bane of the Bane, I like to say. She took charge of the tribe, but had a curious way about her. Most fascinating beast I've ever met. Oddly pensive, strangely polite, prone to bathing. Things really got unusual when, after a bloody dust-up at the Bane, Reef Talon healed some other members of the patrol with her touch. I can't say heal with a straight face. Those who had their wounds tended by Reef Talon felt spectacular for a few days, but by the week's end, a whole host of new maladies overtook him. Reef Talon was a mystic? She claimed she wasn't, and I've never known a beast to downplay her strengths, but as sure as water's wet, she could mend wounds with a mere touch, so she must have had some training. Having seen what her healing did, hindsight tells me why she would be hesitant to discuss her training. What sort of problems happened to those who were healed? Started subtle, really. Folks treated by Reef Talon just slept a little less each night, at first claiming they felt too hale and hearted to sit in bed. Later, they'd be exhausted from days spent waking, yet unable to sleep. The old tidecaster shifted his weight with a sigh. After days of being sleepless, other things would start to go. Tempers, memories, worst of all, a few who could work sigils lost the talent. Imagine spending an afternoon listening to Jaspos droning on about the virtues of pulverizing stone. You'd be frustrated and exhausted, somewhat murderous in intent, but for some reason you can't sleep. Night turns to day, which turns to night. We took calling those affected the sleepless, and warned others of what became of those cured by Reef Talon. What became of Reef Talon? A few span back, a patrol of disfavored were in the mountains, searching areas struck by Cain's magic. So they said. Well, they stumbled on our refuge and being disfavored, were shocked and appalled not just by our squatting in the old walls, but by the beastmen living with us. A few even deferred to Reef Talon during the parley, and seeing humans look to a beast woman was rather appalling to those iron thugs. The meeting quickly turned violent. Man leads beast, not the other way round. Such things should not require an explanation. Watch what you're saying, Barrack. We bested the disfavored, but Reef Talon fled during the altercation. I guess a combination of guilt from warping her fellows with magic and the feeling of shame that her presence aroused the disfavored to attack us. I have no proof, but I think Reef Talon fled to save us from her. There's plenty of folks who hate her, but I, for one, don't think her actions were ever malicious. Protecting this place is all she cares about, and she probably realized she had to go to save us all. Regardless of her specific motivation, I'm certain she fled deeper into the old walls. Not topside. Someone claims she dove into the water, another claims she accessed the teleporter. Either way, she hasn't been into the village since the disfavored arrival. If anyone can survive the depths of the old wall alone, it's Reef Talon. That said, she's been gone a while now, and I'm not sure I'd wager money on her survival to date. What happened to the Sleepless? When Reef Talon fled, almost all of the Sleepless went with her. Whether they chased her out of anger or fear of being deserted, I don't know. You might find a few here in the refuge, but most of them have taken their chances in the depths of the old walls. Isley, a woman whose life is already marred by tragedy of wedlock to Jaspos, was the last person healed by Reef Talon. She's still cogent. Who knows how long that'll last? Poor woman. The Sleepless grow more detached from reason with each day spent waking. I half imagine most went into the old walls to find death at the talons of the Bane. If I lost the ability to rest, if my magic was taken from me, I'd probably do the same. Okay, that's all for now. Good. He closes his eyes and returns to his reflection. Rather, his recitation, I should say. Okay. That was very, very interesting. Insipid Monarchia. There we go. Let's go and have a chat with them, shall we?
See that?
Oh, oh, damn it.
Pierce, writhe on killing claws, feed tribes lands with flesh and blood.
Rightio. Okay.
They seem to have a plan for dealing with the Bane, provided only a few come through at a time.
Yes.
Wax have clear up everything, Fatebinder. Honest. Well, let's go and have a chat with Insipid Monarchy. Also, let's loot everything. Manta-born Beastwoman. Woundkin protect Beastwoman and humans. Pad Pad soft, human. Woundkin watch always. Woundkin smell all. Pad Pad soft. A woman in the leathers of the Scarlet Fury attentively polishes a bronze blade. Oh. Maybe Verse would have been interested in this place. Okay, let's carry on. Is this DLC or a continuation of his old playthrough? It's a continuation of my old playthrough, yeah. Not enough war up top to have you drag it down. You have to drag it down here? No, not intentionally, I assure you. Broodmother says, Cup has big, sharp claws. I'm sure you do. Fatebinder? You'll be wanting to speak to one of the men in charge. Merchant Nareed? Gloom of Dawn.
I'm not sure what...
Oh. Damn it! What was Eb saying? Greetings, stranger. The spoken... you spoken to one of the big fish yet? Jaspos is in the forge, up north, Wagstaff squat near the southern falls.
It surprises me more. How calm these beastmen are, or how comfortable the others are with their presence.
I mean, it certainly is strange, to be fair. Tread careful. Will not rescue if human falls into water. The heavy odours of musk and urine loiter around these matted straw nests, marking their proximity to the sleeping tents to the west. Making all the more surprising. Okay, interesting. Sparring a bit. Keeping their talents sharp. Telesophia. Teleporter. I imagine that's the forge. A broad-shouldered woman in disfavored raiment dangles against the nearby column, suspended by her wrists. Though still garbed in the iron breastplate of her unit, she is without helmet and appears unusually at ease in her compromised position. A nearby settler engages in friendly conversation with the disfavored. She peers down at him, listening with dutiful patience. The last lure hooked that trout just fine, but it took a whole thing downstream with it. When the knot gave out, I wrapped the line several times, just like you said. You aren't fibbing me, are you, Sophia? It stays your hand, Fatebinder. We must right this injustice immediately, Barak said. What is this soldier's crime? Her? Oh, it's hardly my place to say. Far be it from me to posture like I'm a leader or a lawbringer. Settler seems amused just to be consulted. Looks like you have company. Talk later, Sophia. The settler turns to you, wearing an uncertain smile. Good hunting, then. As the settler turns away, the bound soldier takes note of your approach. Tell us, Sophia, to find you in this cesspool of trespassers. He shakes his head. Worry not. We shall release you from this bondage at once. Wait, who the... Barak, is that you? No, please, leave me be. I'm sworn by duty to slay these fools, and sworn by honour to see to their safety. It's easier to have no choice in the matter. You'd rather stay up there? Even if you set me free, I'm too hungry to fight. It's the only thing I'd have the mind to do. The time will come when I can free myself, and I will grab the opportunity with both hands. She clenches her pale fingers into fists. I'd salute an officer of the court, but I'm somewhat indisposed at the moment. How did you end up on that column? A few span back, after Cairn was finally declared rogue, the general wanted folks looking for what made Cairn lose his sanity, or his loyalty, depending on your outlook. My unit played escort for the team of Earthshakers as they retraced Cairn's journey through the Tears. We were headed to the Gates of Judgment and came across the crevasse, which happened to be, well, she gestures upward with her head. The middle-aged woman walks by with while clutching a woven basket, giving Telesophiae a wave. The disfavoured soldier nods in return. My lord, this is quite interesting. Good day, Yukio. She watches the passing settler before returning her attention to you. You seem to be on good terms with the locals. They're rather lovely folk, despite all of them being Kyros mocking scum deserving slow deaths. She attempts a limited expression of a shrug. Where was I? We paused to investigate only to find this nest, this hive. Trespassers living with beasts as equals. All of it an abomination. There was no choice but to put them to the sword. We fought well, but our advance fell apart when the coward Argean threw up his arms and surrendered. He broke ranks and left us exposed. If I hadn't been knocked senseless, I would have executed him myself. Woke up, hoisted on this wall, and I've been here since. How are you still alive? Gravenash protects. The General's Aegis can sustain us through far more trying circumstances. She maneuvers her shoulders in a dim approximation of a salute. My wrists are mangled, and I've been tired and hungry for longer than I can remember. But I'm far from death's door. The settlers feed me just enough to keep going. She glances down at her dirt-encrusted armour. I'm sure I smell worse than a beastman. A dung heap, though. Yeah. Why don't the settlers just execute you? They have, in a sense. The beastwoman leader of the local pack ordered that I be strung up until dead. Guess she didn't understand Ash's Aegis, so who's laughing now? Nobody wants to anger the resident Bane hunters, so the beasts must have their way. I've had plenty of time to get acquainted with the locals while I perish. It's almost a pity they're all doomed under Kyros. Hey. That's a rather bizarre scenario, I must say. Kind of poetic in a way. The interesting part, though, isn't that they're kind of star-crossed. It's just that she's come to acknowledge that, yeah, actually, you're good people. But if I get down, I will kill you. It's really weird. Fatebinder ain't no Archon. We'll draw bronze if you force us. While they wouldn't weather a strong gale, these tents seem stable enough to offer some privacy to the denizens of the wound. Cots, bedrolls, and woolen blankets lie within. Continue to wander around. We may find some more hidden things. Why do you even come here? Well, I mean, I got a message, you see. Forgebound in this hole. Surely they cannot outfit the Legion from here. Like the Forgebound Enclave at Lethian's Crossing, it seems these craftsmen have hewn and set the stones of old walls into an admirable hearth. Outsider, you'll be wanted to speak to the Master. He's east of here, past the forge. Jaspers is over the bridge. He'll explain. Please be merciful, Fatebinder. Did you even come here? Jasper speaks for us. He's just across the bridge to the north. Jaspos, Master of Napping. Rather potent title, that one. I suppose I should go and get ready for bed. Have fun, Dark Aavak, and take care, not a rogue AI. Yeah, she's left to die, but simultaneously unable because the Aegis keeps restoring her. Kind of crazy when you think about it. Have you got a wound? Oh, you do. How did you get that wound?
Let's have it then.
Crazy. Jaspos, Master of Napping. A heavily muscled man stands next to a mixed pile of broken floor tiles and smashed boulders. Head bent in focus, sledgehammer gripped tightly in both hands. Without breaking his gaze, he calmly extends an arm out as you approach, signaling for you to wait. In one smooth motion, he whirls his sledgehammer in a precise arc, effortlessly splitting a large green-grey boulder in two. He smiles and lets out a pleased chuckle before turning to greet you. Ah, Fatebinder, or should I say, Governor. Conquest decision. After years of military campaigning in the Basseterre, you were selected by Tunon to oversee Lethian's Crossing, a captured settlement in Haven that was deemed suitable for iron production. Only the forge-bound mages know how to fabricate iron, and Tunon carefully regards these artisan mages as reward for your brave service in the Basseterre. Tunon pulled you from the combat duty and installed you as overseer of Lethian's Crossing, master of the iron supply. While you stepped away from the role in late 429 and entrusted the city to disfavoured officers, you are still widely known to this day as the governor of Lethian's Crossing. For the settlement saw its safest, most productive seasons during your rule. And there was a time when nearly every quartermaster in 2 armies wanted to befriend you, or more specifically, the iron supply you controlled. We were an important person. I mean, we are an important person, but we were a different kind of important person before. That explains all the ruckus I've been hearing. His voice is deep, a confident baritone that easily carries through the open air. Forgive my rudeness. Masters of the craft rarely break focus if we can help it. Old habit. He smiles broadly, motioning you to come forward. Your arrival is unexpected, but my forge is always open to servants of the court. What can I do for you? I'm Jaspos, Master of Napping. This settlement is called the Bastard's Wound. I expect you're looking for its leader. No doubt someone pointed you in my direction. If you lead these people, then you must answer for any crimes committed by this settlement. The legality of this place must be determined by a Fatebinder. Then we're lucky to have you here, Fatebinder. I can assure you that I would never do or advise anything that works against Kyros' will. The Wound is a complicated place. Many came before me, and I've done my part to steer things correctly. As I'm sure you know, that's not always an easy task. There is another man here that unfortunately holds some sway. Wagstaff, a tidecaster. Possibly the last tidecaster from what I understand. He crosses his arms, his muscles tensing reflexively. He practically founded this place years ago and, truth be told, he's the one responsible for its creation, legal or not. We don't always see eye to eye, but I did trust that his decision was respectful of the Overlord's will. So you're passing the buck whilst also trying to claim that you're at the top of this one. That's an interesting move. A bold move, Jaspos, Master of Napping. Also, speaking about bold moves, it looks like the Vikings are raiding. Hey, Mordred, how you doing, buddy? Welcome, Raiders. You caught me in the Bastard's Wound. We are still playing Tyranny for the first time, even though I started this playthrough quite some time ago. Don't ask. Life gets in the way. But we are continuing that very first run, and so let me just get this out there ultra fast. For any of you who are already familiar with Tyranny, of which I imagine there are quite a few, because it's an amazing game and it's been out for a while, please avoid any spoilers in chat. But that being said, welcome, Raiders. I hope you had a fantastic stream. What were you playing over there, Mordred? From Solasta to Tyranny. What a good evening. Okay. How are you finding Solasta? I haven't had an opportunity to check it out myself, but I've been hearing some very, very good things. Alright, I'm going to just alt-tab a second. Do forgive the lack of music while I do that. There we go. For any of you who aren't familiar with Mordred Viking, please do consider checking out that link and dropping him a follow. He's a fantastic individual, a accomplished content creator, and a player of many things, especially grand strategy. If you have a taste for such games, then you would be well placed putting your follow down there on his channel and checking out his content in the future. Mordred Viking is one of a growing group of content creators that I've had the esteemed pleasure of having met in real life, and he is a scholar and a gentleman, to be sure. You absolutely love it. If you like games like Tyranny, you to dig Solasta, I will take your recommendation as high praise, and I will be certain to check it out. Thank you very much for the raid, mate. We are currently coming... You've actually caught us at a good time. We've been doing a lot of talking, a new area. You know, it's like all RPGs. We've come upon a new town, so that means like a bajillion people to talk to. And some of them have a lot to say. But I think this is one of the last main NPCs in this town that we need to talk to. So we're coming to the end of filling in the blanks of this area. So we'll probably be getting to some possible decision making. I may go down into the old walls first, though, because there may be a couple of puzzles to solve in this area. It certainly feels like there's a lot of information that's kind of... Like, right now we're getting the information that's skin deep, but there's definitely some information that's bone deep. And I think I might want to drill down a little bit deeper to find out just what's been going on here and why some of the weird, mysterious things that have been happening are happening the way they are. This is a fun DLC area. Oh, I didn't even realize this was DLC area. I like it when games have like a seamless transition to DLC stuff. A dull crash interrupts the exchange. A forge helper, hands still trembling, hastily attempts to gather up a piece of dropped bowl. Nearby, several onlookers have gathered to observe the meeting and whisper nervously amongst themselves. Forgive them, Fatebinder. They're understandably anxious. As you know, men and women live and die by your words. These people here, all of us in fact, are wondering what your intentions are for the settlement. Again, it's like, well, the settlement stretches the interpretation of Kyros' law. To justify its existence, the wound must provide material support to the court. Pay your taxes and you can commit crimes. I haven't decided yet. I have some questions for you first. I'm sure there's much you'd like to know about the wound. Ask away. Anything you need. What do you do here as one of the wound's leaders? I don't look the part, I know. Most of my guild huddle by the heat of their forges and stick to themselves. Here I am of my forge more... here I think of my forge more as a hearth. Everyone is invited to share in its warmth. In practiced motion, he unfastens a rag looped around his belt and wipes off trace amounts of sweat from his already spotless brow. Perhaps that's better. Obviously, I work the forge. In a place like this, that means everything. Those bridges you see, my handiwork. The knives and weapons everyone's carrying, they came from my forge. The nails holding our containers together, keeping our shelters upright, mine again. But most importantly, I created these stone sieves to clean the water. He pats one of the open stone receptacles, pride evident in his voice. First of its kind, and none too soon. When I came here, many were sick with the withering rot. The disease is in the water. It's a terrible way to go. These sieves change things. How do the stone sieves work? Trade secret, I'm afraid. He pauses for dramatic effect. Except for members of the court. It's really a matter of using the right combination of enchanted stones, pulverized charcoal, and a few precious stones in a precise arrangement. These materials act as the sieve in these containers. He points towards the base of one of them, drawing your attention to water dripping out of a small opening and into a collecting bowl. Anything that comes out of there is free of the disease. Now this place isn't exactly bursting with precious stones, so I had to devise a substitute. Beastman claws and teeth, when properly prepared, have the properties I need. Since they regrow over time, I've been able to collect donations from our many warriors. I do prefer using stones wherever possible, though. It seems the Beastmen are really involved in everything going on down here. They keep the Bane out of here. Their blood is used in the purifying ritual by the Tidecaster, and their teeth and claws are used by the Forge. I, as a hunter brought up by beast women, can't help but feel a little bit frustrated by this. There is a secret here, and I don't like the smell of it.